Welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club with 4 race starts. We're going to start with our Category 4 riders, then 3, 2 and 1. Our riders lined up in yellow, that is our Category 1 riders. In green, our Category 2. In blue, Category 3. And Category 4 in red.
I could keep going, but the Category 1 race field have already started. They are up and out of the pen on Qualifier Race number 3 for October. So Category 4, we've got a lone leader in De Gracia. Category 3, we've got a lone leader in Izik. Category 2 and Category 1, we've still got groups leading the front.
What's going to happen? Well, they're going to come charging through, and this generally causes carnage.
Never make an assumption. You have no idea how the other riders on the start sheet are going. You've no idea what they've been doing. The only thing you know is what you've been doing and how you feel.
They get ready to kick. Try and jump on this wheel and hold it as long as possible without digging into the red zone.
I don't think she needs to. I do not think she even needs to attempt to go with Tritton because she needs to win her race.
The first rider across the line here on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club on Qualifier Race number 3. It's the women's race. Kate Tritton takes the win in Category 2. Hello, good morning. Welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. We're on Qualifier Race number 4 because this is a bonus bonanza super duper prize money month. My name's Matt Payne. I'm going to be bringing you all of the race action. I'm down in a not underwater full speed events studio with the one and only Emma Martin. Morning, Emma.
Good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on where you are in the world. It might be good morning here in Derbyshire in the UK. And, well, hello to everybody.
So we are here in the UK, but of course we know we've got riders all around the globe, and we always love it when we visit different courses around the globe on MyWhoosh, all of those different worlds playing host to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. And we are in Belgium, in Europe, on a classics course, and this proved a cracker last time round. Emma, take us through this course.
Yeah, so the women head to Belgium today, 35 kilometres of racing, 324 metres of climbing. Well, 2 sprint segments along the way, a pan flap for 6 kilometres, and then things get interesting because we've got 4 different climbs today. We're going up the Kortekeer, we're going up the Valkenburg, we're going up the Eichenberg Hill and the Eichenberg climb. Then we've got a 6 kilometre run into the finish at that 35 kilometre mark, and that is a downhill and pretty much flat run in. So this, I think, is going to be a really great course today for the women. We've only run this event once before. That was back in Qualifier 3 in September. That was the first time the women raced on this course. Now, Coincident, who won that event in Category 1, unfortunately won't be with us today. We're sending healing vibes out after an incident on her road bike. Get well soon. We're really looking forward to having you back.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bump on the shoulder, isn't it? A collarbone style break, I think. So, yeah, healing vibes and get well soon to Mina Coiston, our former winner on this course. And, of course, because this is Belgium, these courses are very tough. Climbs are very short, they're very steep, they're very bumpy. And this suits a slightly different rider to maybe our long climbs at the end. 4 race categories. Category 1 in yellow, 2 in green, 3 in blue, and Category 4 in red, going off with 5-minute intervals in between, as you can see. And the first riders away are our Category 4 race field. And lots of our usual suspects in here. Salama Al-Kabi in here. We've also got people like Maria Gill, Katrina May Ruby's joining us, Natalie Becker. But it's an interesting field because I think we could see some different individuals up at the top in that top 5.
Oh, I agree completely. 19 riders on the start sheets today. And this 4 qualifying rounds in October really mixes things up because once some riders have got qualifications in, they then sit out, and it does give other riders the opportunity. But Gill is here, Ospina is here, Myra, Madeira is here. So some of our familiar names as well.
So here we go. This is qualifier number 4. We are getting ready to go. It's our Category 4 riders. Time to get wound up and get off from this race. Start in with the bunch. Absolutely critical on this start because it is so flat. So getting away, getting onto the wheels, getting into the drafts is key. So if you haven't ridden on MyWhoosh, if you haven't watched the show before, let's take you through some of the data that we're seeing in front of us, some of the things that are on our screens here, because we have our riders out and riding, and you can see middle of the screen, top center. That is the data that is relevant to this particular rider. That's the real rider data stuff. So we have the travel distance, currently just over 300 meters covered. The wattage, and that is in green if they're in the draft, in white if they are in the wind. So white is in the wind. If it's green, it means that you're doing good stuff and you're hiding away in the draft. The moving time, quite obviously, is the time clock from the start line. The heart rate is how hard our riders are working. Of course, it's variable from person to person. And the cadence, that is the pedal revolution, or revs per minute, that our riders are pedaling. Left-hand corner, bottom left-hand corner, you'll see that we have our radar view, a bit like satellite view, sat-nav view having the car, but we have the added advantage of being able to see our riders. All our riders represented by a disc on there, and the largest disc is our rider that we are following. It also gives us a quick heads up on the distance and the speed as well. So the speed our riders are traveling, in this case 30 kilometers an hour, or nearly 20 miles an hour if you work in mile per hour. Right hand side, you can see the elevation, the course elevation, absolutely pancake flat for the first 6K, as Emma said. So that's a 0 at the top, because it's a 0%. It's just hovering around that dead flat, fast section, and you can see that the position of the rider is indicated by the yellow bar. The zone that the rider is working in is also indicated on there as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Then, right-hand side, all the way down that right-hand side, we have our riders. So at the moment, we're in with Jacqueline Kirchner, and you can see from Brazil, dropping down into second place at the moment, putting out 2.6 watts per kilo, travel 1.1k, and you can see that the riders around her are given a time check at the moment. That is 0.00 seconds. Nothing on there, no gaps, no distances, because they're all one bunch. You can see how hard each of our riders are working, and when there is a red chevron, like you can see flicking up on the screen, that's when the riders are digging in to stay with the pack. But this pack, Emma, has broken up already.
Yeah, it has indeed. We had we had a few riders drop actually really close to the start, so I'm quite surprised here. Very, very flat. But the key issue with a very, very flat start and the flat 6 kilometers here is that if you do not get into the bunch and you do not utilize the draft, the pack will be up and riding quite swiftly, even though at the moment, you know, I'm looking in here, and in the middle of the pack, we've got riders Madeira at the moment, 1.6 watts per kilo. This is a steady start, but they are just shy of 30 kilometers an hour. So whilst it is a steady start and the pace is off of this group, the kilometers per hour are moving quite swiftly because of the nature of the terrain, and that's what makes it hard for the riders to get back on.
It does. And I think for me, the key here, I mean, I was riding on Friday. Well, I've been riding throughout the week this week on MyWhoosh, but I rode quite extensively on Friday. I was on my limit on Friday, and whereas normally I would ride it reasonably comfortably, I was right on my limit pretty much from the word go on Friday. And it was really noticeable when you're on your limit, the difference between being in the draft and in the pack, and then being off the back of the pack is absolutely critical, because the effort it takes to stay in the draft is not that much. But once you're off, trying to get back on again, when you're on your limit, it affects you more. But you know, that little bit more. There's sort of the straw that broke the camel's back syndrome.
Well, actually, what we're seeing here now, you can just see on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen that catch being made by one of the riders in that Category 4 group, but a bit of a push on coming at the front from Madeira, because they are about to go into the first sprint, as on the left-hand side we move to Category 3 on the start line.
So our Category 3 riders are really quality field here. Team Golden Light, represented by Golden Light herself. We've got Claudia Gentili from Team Purple in here as well. Lots of our regular faces, a few new faces, and a few people moving up and down as well this week. But for me, this is going to be really interesting to see who excels on this course, on this different style of riding.
Oh, for me, Category 3 is, I think, one of the most competitive categories. As we sitting in on the start line with Pauli Hino, this is a really competitive race field. So the seconds count down, and away go our Category 3 riders. This is qualifier race number 4 in October on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. The pack are up and out of the pen. The kilometres per hour up and over 30 kph, really, really fast. This group is rolling.
It certainly is rolling. It's rolling, and absolutely rocketing, because 33 kph, you can see that difference now, 37, just pushing through the group there. Palihino, the rider that we are in with, and you can just see nicely tucks it into the draft, the numbers in green, then squeezes up to the front and rolls back again. Really, really critical. Now, some of our riders choosing to personalize their avatars on there makes it a little bit difficult. Predominantly field of a blue jerseys. Now remember, of course, we will be awarding the polka dot skin suit and the green skin suit for the points in the mountains and the points in the sprints competitions respectively, but at the moment everybody clad in blue, so one or two riders choosing to not go with the white helmets, go with maybe a cab, maybe change the color of the helmet, change the color of the socks, just to make it a little bit easier to identify themselves in that pack if they change camera. Also, if they've got teammates in there, people that they're going to ride with. So we know a number of our riders are riding in the same gym, so we'll quite often see a lot of people down in the same gym riding together, groups of 4 and 5 people, 6 people, 10 people, all in the same place, and quite often teammates will wear the same thing, so they're easily identifiable. So my avatar usually never has a hat or a helmet on, but it does have generally white shoes, invariably white shoes on all my avatars, always on the way through, and I have changed them, and I tend to wear the same sort of glasses as well.
Do you?
Same sort of shades, yeah. Just so I can identify, and it might have white hair, oddly enough. Mine's not white yet, but
well, there is that opportunity, isn't there, to personalise your avatar, so you can pick yourself out on the screen as much as your teammates picking you out as well. That is just as important when the pack is racing, and the pack is a large one that is all together. So these Category 3 riders settled down now into this race. They're sitting at around 30 kph, one big group on the road. 1.3 kilometres now under the wheels of this 35-kilometre race, and it is absolutely pan flat. So the riders taking the opportunity, I think, to roll into this race, because it is not going to be flat once they get to the 6-kilometre mark. They're going to hit the quarter gear climb. Now, that's the first of 4 climbs in this race today, 3.9 kilometres long, with an average gradient of 2.5%. However, it kicks to 17% in the first section. It goes up, it comes down, and then it kicks again over the segment, which is why that 2.5% average gradient is just so deceptive.
it's bobbins.
I don't know about bobbins, but deceptive. It makes you lull you into a false sense of security when you look at the map and the profile of the course, and you think, look at that. But it does indeed kick to over 17%.
It's utterly deceptive, isn't it?
It is indeed.
It's sometimes there's lies, and statistics, and this is definitely where
always
the
dig beneath.
Lies the truth somewhere underneath it, and that is because it is that rolling profile. It is a 2-stage climb, because it does have that downhill. It's going to really test our riders. Before we get there, partway along, we're going to go through the Ghent City Sprint. Great little run through here. Rode through so I think it was on Wednesday.
Yeah,
went through Ghent City.
Well, what's really interesting, isn't it? You can see there how much faster this Category 3 pack are moving than the Category 4 pack were, because the Category 4 pack had just gone into this sprint segment as we moved to the start of the Category 3 race. So about, I would reckon that's about a minute quicker.
Wow. That's moving. Here we go.
I think they're moving a
Let's
lot
go across.
faster.
So into Category 2 we go. Maybe Emma and I will disappear on those, disagree on those numbers. You never know. I'm sure Emma's numbers are much more accurate than mine. They always are. Now we've got Paul Archer, our Speed Queen, in here for the Speed Queen. Good to see the teams jumping on board, getting those names in early. And remember, of course, that's going to apply more next week when we go into our finals. The teams at the moment, well, they've got their representatives in there, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see who takes this. I wouldn't put the past Tanya Holweiler, though, to be right in at the mix, but we will see because we're into countdown. It is 5 seconds, less than an hour to go, so it's time to wind it up, hit the roads rolling, because the riders ramping up the watts before the go is given. Now, very interesting. We've got Ella Vink in this race field, Emma, and she's shown that she can move through race categories from 4 to 3 to 2 and gets right up in the mix and definitely finding a feet. But will this suit her? It's a rolling terrain. She's great at the breakaway.
Well, I think there's a number of women in this race field today who this may suit. This very different type of racing today, shorter, steeper, punchier, less overall climbing, no big long effort at the end of this race. And there's a number of riders in here. Holweiler is in here, Trident is in here, Kokonin may do well, Stefania Sanchez, Wendy McAlpine, Adriana Barco. There are a number of different riders in here who may well, this course may well play to their strengths today. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Now, the winner in category 2, in fact the first few riders who won this in September, have progressed to category 1 now. So this is going to be a little bit more open and I think a little bit more cagey today.
Okay, let's see if it's cagey. It's not rolling out super fast here in category 2. If anything, I think this is going to be, I'd agree with you, Emma, is a slightly cagey, slightly more thought out race, less impulsive potentially, but we will see. We've got one rider, my tip, here you go, for the day, Emily Mabin.
Ooh!
Great sprinter, great power, good at attacks, good on the short sprints. If it came to a sprint at the end, she could well take this out. But got to get through those times. And for me, the very first one is the tough one to get over. And because it's a long downhill with flat sections on the way down, I think it's one of those where you've got to be on it or you're going to be out of contention as you go over the top on the very first climb. After that, because the downhills aren't so long, you've got a chance to pick back up. So you can roll in, take the momentum off the downhill into the next climb, particularly on our last 2 climbs, the Eichenberg pair, the Eichenberg Hill, and then into the Eichenberg climb. It's basically you just drop down one turn, straight back up the other. So that, for me, is going to be really interesting to see. So here we go. Category 2 are away, and we've got at the moment Kate Tridin in here. Kate had a good ride last week. Another of our riders started to become more regular on the Sunday Race Club. We'll see if she's going to be in there. In terms of the top 5 from last week, Emma, I mean, how many of those riders are we looking at coming back again?
Well, I think they are all really strong from last week. So Trident took the wing, Kokonin in 2, Gianti in 3, Hadlock in 4, Holweiler in 5. That is a really, really strong top 5. And in fact, when you take a look through Qualifier 2 and Qualifier 1 this month, those names appear regularly throughout. Now, Hermansen Wolkenhurst, who took the 1-2 in the final in September, have progressed to category 1. So has Kong, who was also in that top 5. So I think this is opening up a little bit, but we've got that really strong raft of riders. This is a really competitive field, and one of the things I'm looking at here is the starts have been very similar in all 3 of the categories who are underway at the moment. 3 very, very steady state starts for our groups of riders, because we have said this first 6 kilometers is absolutely flat, and then we hit the climbs, and that's when I expect the race to really get underway. But quite often we don't see the 4 race categories behaving in the same manner and playing out the same race tactics. And today, well, at least for these first 3 categories underway, we seem to have a very steady start in each of those 3 race categories.
And I think in part that's because this is a relatively new course. We've got relatively new terrain for our riders. Now, for race categories 4, 3, and 2 away, 5 minutes between those, and 5 minutes between category 2 and category 1. Our category 1 riders all lined up here. I think we've got to watch out for people like McDonough, Degum, Shandy in here. Definitely one to watch. People like Catherine Fuhr, Lisa Hermansen, who know this course well and have been riding on here. But we could see a surprise winner as well, Emma.
Well, we could indeed. So 26 riders on the start sheets in Category 1 today. They are down in the pens and they are ready to go. We're going to drop in with Engstrom at the moment. She's surrounded by London, Embring, Fua, Munoz, Hermansen, Zimmerman and Kong. Now, just those riders surrounding each other on the start line, really strong. As away go Category 1 on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. They are up, they are out, and they are riding. And this looks like a bit of a stronger kick off the start line than we've seen before. So this Category 1 group up to 40 kilometres an hour out of the start pen today. This flat start getting the group up to speed really fast.
So, kaboom, we're away. We are into Flanders territory. We are into Belgium. We are motoring our way along. Our start kicking off. And if you snooze at that start, then you're going to be in trouble because you're going to get distance. You're not going to get your timing out that start gate just right. So really key to make sure that you get that start absolutely nailed. Emma's laughing because she knows that I'd be one of those people who get a false start because I'll be too eager and do not actually get enough at the right time.
Well, one rider just distance off the back of that Category 1 race field at the start there. And we have said that these packs are moving pretty quickly, even for few watts per kilo on this flat section. So it's going to be interesting to see if that rider can make the juncture and jump back into the group. But safely within this group is Manshandi, is London, is Zimmerman, is Fua, is Kong, is Kasani. Columbi is in it now. Selena Columbi could have a good race today. So that could be an interesting rider to keep an eye on. Nelly Larsen is in here as well. So a number of riders potentially who this course could suit today.
There is, for me, one of the key things here, really interesting as these riders go out. If you're trying to get back on, so the way this rides very much is it's just like you would find if you're riding outdoors. If you are on the flat, you've got to chase. You've literally got to put the watts in. You've got to put the power down. You've got to burn a lot of energy to get back in. It is all your own effort, and that makes it very difficult. Where it's easier, actually, and it sounds counterintuitive, the harder the start, so the hillier the start, the easier it is to get back on again. Because what you find is there's a variation in speed, and because of the climbs, it's less about aerodynamics, and it's more about personal power. So basically, if you are able to put the power down, you can be very close in terms of power, in terms of speed, and get back on much easier when it's hillier because the aerodynamics has less effect. That pack, that draft effect, doesn't affect you as a solo rider and be at your detriment when you've got a big pack of riders like this. So counterintuitive, harder the start, easier it is to get back to the riders if you've got the power, and if it's because you basically got caught out at the start, you had a problem, you dropped your bottle, dropped your phone, the dog ate your homework, whatever happened on the way through. However, this is a fast start, and that's why it's so key to get in there. And I think that's one of the things that's noticeable when we go into, for me, things like Australia, where we go on to the outer loop, where we basically come out the pens, we turn left, we go around, within about 700 meters is a big climb. Because basically, the moment that the bunch hits that, the speed comes down. Anybody charging in behind has a chance to get back on again because they've got that climb coming so quickly. Right. Okay, enough about charging onto the back and being late. It's time, because we're on time, coming into the Ghent City Sprint. So our sprint segments today, only 2 sprint segments. Each sprint segment is 300 meters long. We've got the Ghent City Sprint, which is where our Category 1 riders are now coming into Ghent in the lowlands. The next one is the Thiesenhoven-Molen, which is the Windmill Sprint. Up on the far side of the Kortekia, and that will take you around. You don't want to say Thiesenhoven-Molen after you've had a few Amstels in Ghent, believe me. That would be a real tongue twister, wouldn't it? However, these riders very much motoring on the way through Ghent and going in past the buildings. Actually run a XCE, a mountain bike UCI Eliminator in here. Let's see if our riders are as quick on their sprint speed today. Well, that's telling, Emma.
Well, it is indeed.
Tell us a story.
But Myra Madeira really went for that sprint in that Category 4 race. If you remember, we had just left Category 4 as we were about to start Category 3, and they were just going into this sprint, and Madeira was putting down the power because she obviously wanted to pick up this top 5 points today in this sprint competition, and she has indeed. So Madeira, Category 4, taking the sprint in Ghent. Lloyd, Category 4 as well. Now, Nicola Lloyd has picked up the sprint jerseys before, so we know she can move. Gentili from Category 3, Barco from Category 2, Moya Category 3, Tanglian Category 3, Gianti Category 2, Holweiler Category 2. Category 1 were, I want to say, doodling through the sprint. Gonzalez Rua, the first rider through from Category 1, in 29th position.
I've got a word for you.
With a average watts per kilo of 2.2, which tells me they were taking in the scenery going through Ghent today.
They were pootling.
Pootling, that's a
there
nice
you are,
word,
that's
isn't
a
it?
pootling.
Well,
I like the word pootling.
I'll tell you
who
nice, isn't pootling, and that is Category 4, because Bremner, Jill, Madeira and Galeno have gone off the front. We've got a 4-rider breakaway. They are on the first climb of the day. They are up the steep section. They have rolled down, and they are on the second part of the climb. We've got a 4-rider breakaway in Category 4. 14 seconds the lead from a lone chaser, then 22 seconds back to the next lone chaser, then over a minute back to the rest of the field. So 4 riders going clear. And this is the first attack in Category 4 coming on the first climb of the day.
And this is crunch point, making sure that you go over the top of the second part with that lead group is critical. 16 seconds back for that chasing group. Now, this group here is Category 3. They're also on the quarter gears, but they're on part 1 rather than part 2. You can see top right-hand side of your screen. The yellow line indicates where our riders are. They're coming up towards the top of part 1. They're catching some of our riders in Category 4 ahead, and you can see the times tumbling down on the top right-hand side of your screen as they come towards those riders. They'll go over the top of this section, and then they will drop in to part 2, and that second section is tough, particularly if you've jellied your legs going over the top. So you can see our 4 categories, categories 1, 2, 3 and 4. Category 1 covering 3.8k, category 2 covering 6.5k, 7.5k covered for category 3, and 9.5k covered for category 4. But by the end of this, my expectation is they're going to be basically all together, if not Category 1 at the front, but it does depend how they ride. Category 1, though, are traditionally the fastest, and as such, well, guess what? They have the biggest prize fund. Maybe a time to look at what our riders are racing for if they're in our top 5. So, today is the last of our qualifier races, so right-hand side of your screen, individual classification, 432 AED for first, running right up to 2,160 AED for first. Next week, that team classification will come into play. So in addition to the individual prizes, there's also the team prize. That team prize is for the 3 riders, fastest 3 riders in the team, maximum team of 5 teams.
Well, taking a look at that, that's Category 4. Category 3, the prize money increases. So taking a look at that today, the first prize in Category 1, 3,600 AED, down to 720 AED for 5th place. Next week, that team's competition, 18,000 AED for 1st place.
So that is in Category 3. In Category 2, well, you can see it moves up once again. That's 3,600 in Category 3. Now, 3rd prize in Category 2, and 30,000 AED up for grabs next week. And 1st prize right down to 3,000 AED in 5th in that team's competition. So categories 4, 3 and 2 increasing until we get to our elites at the very top of the tree. The cherry on the cake, it is our Category 1 riders. So let's take you through the full prize fund here, because today in our qualifying races and in our finals, the individual riders can take away 2,000 AED for 5th, 4,000 AED for 4th, 6,000 AED for 3rd, 8,000 AED for 2nd, and a whopping 10,000 AED for 1st place In addition, next week, our team competition, 5,000 for 5th, 10,000 for 4th, 20,000 for 3rd, 30,000 for 2nd, and 50,000 AED for 1st. Now, we know not everybody, and anyone who's watched this regularly will know that we know that there are people from around the world. Not everybody's operating in AED in your local area because we have riders from around the globe. So it's time to head over to. I'm going to get some kind of theme tune to play in. It's Emma's Exchange.
Well, Emma's Exchange today is heading to New Zealand, the other side of the world from where I am today, where I used to believe when I was a child that if I dug a great big hole in the garden, I would eventually reach. But obviously, I grew up and I learned that was no longer true. So 10,000 AED, 4,666 New Zealand dollars as of my exchange rate right now. And we are jumping in. This is the top of the first climb with category 2. And it's Stefania Sanchez who's just put in a little bit of a kick here. Gianti and Mabin, well, they are closing that down very, very quickly. And I'm looking at this thinking this is at least 6 or 7 riders at the very front of this category 2 race, with a number of riders not far off the back of this leading group. So Mabin, Gianti, Sanchez, McAlpine, Kekkonen, Garcia, Lopez, all in the mix, and Kate Tridden with Holweiler as well. That is the list of riders we pulled at the front.
That is our Category 2 riders coming up to the top of Part 1 of the quarter. Now comes the Category 1 riders. Let's see if any of these riders can match the pace over the top. Each of our climb segments being tested at the moment. As the screens are showing, the fastest riders over are our Category 4 at the very top. That's because they're the only ones that have gone over. We can't see if our Category 3, 2 and 1 are going to challenge because they're still on the quarter. It's a long, long climb here today. So it's going to be really interesting to see who can take this out. Now, Sarah London in here, that heart rate 127, 128. Nice pedal cadence, nice race. So when we say that somebody's got nice pedal cadence, it's nice and fluid, it's flexible, it's round about that 80 to 100 marker. And much lower than that 80 mark, you can really start to struggle. You're pushing, you're doing a weight training session rather than using your fitness and your suppleness to get up there. So that's what we tend to refer to as nice on the way up. So keeping those revs flexible, 83, they're just rolling in and out as we come on now. The slopes increase 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's just going to rocket upwards as we make our way onto the quarter through between the branding bars on the side there, underneath the hexagon arch, and up on to the steeper section here. So this is going to pull now up as we go up into the 6, 7, 8%, right of the way up. And this first section, Emma, it's where you can make it difficult just by riding hard.
Well, yes, it is, because it's not particularly, well, I say it's not particularly steep. It's still between 3 and 5%, this first section of the quarter. This is not the steepest part. So if you can push on here and keep the pace strong, you are going to put some riders into the danger zone. And you can see already on the bottom left-hand side of your screen, we've got 2 riders already dropped off the back of this Category 1 race. Field on the bottom of this climb is just easing off now, just shy of 2%, but very, very soon it is going to kick, and it is going to kick really, really hard.
And it's about making sure that you get this balance right, being in the group, squeezing on, but not putting yourself in trouble for when you go onto the steep sections. So Category 1 on their way up the quarter. Category 4, they're on the descent. They've not made their way down. We're just dealing with Bridget Bremner on the right-hand side. She's got the polka dot jersey for being the leading point scorer at this stage.
Yeah, and that first climb today, the quarter in the Category 4 race, took that group down to 4 riders. That selection was made on the first part of that climb. It's going to be interesting to see how many riders are left in the pack on the left-hand side of your screen when they go up and over this climb.
Yeah, 4 is not many to take through this terrain, but remember, there's not that much flat. The flat sections come between climb number 1, between the quarter climb and the Vulcan, but between climb number 2 and 3. But then no gap, and then there's a last run into the finish of 6 kilometers. And that takes us into our finish, which is, again, pretty flat. So being with the group has its advantages. Rather than being a solo rider, you need to be really strong. It's a big group here, isn't it, in Category 3. They are on the upper slopes of the course here, so they've dropped off the peak. They're on the top of the long platform here, making the way down. They're going to drop again, and then there's a really big descent. So this is just about, for me, really, recovery here is a good possibility, depending on the time gap to the riders behind and whether you're worried about them coming back in.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because we said at the start in Category 3 it was much more competitive. And my count, that's around 11 riders at the front of that Category 3 race. So nowhere near the small selection that was made in Category 4, a much bigger group coming through here. And 1 or 2 riders just off the back and now being able to get onto this group. So the group actually growing. I reckon that's around 12 riders now. But the riders in here, you know, some really strong riders, as we can compare that with the left-hand side of your screen, which is the leading group in the Category 1 race. And that is a big group as well.
And they're just coming over the top of part number 1. You can see top right-hand side of the Category 1 screen that those numbers are dropping down. So as we go over the top now, we go underneath the archway, and you can see the road starting to roll away. It's going to drop down. It's a 2-stage descent, and you don't want to get caught out here. So being attentive, really, really critical. You see the speed picking up, 46, 47, 49k. We're going to go over 50 kph. So now over 50, heading over 60. The speed really picking up, but quickly leveling out here now. So it's going to level. We're going to then drop again. And those are the leaders over part 1. Just taking a look at those names rolling through. No real big names missing in here. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be any tougher, because remember, it's the riders who made the race, and it may be that the riders decide to shut this down and not push too hard at this stage. So making the way along, they're going to drop off the edge. So when we get to the end of this tunnel of light, as we go underneath the hoops here, underneath the framing, we're going to drop down. And as we take a look back at Madonna Degan-Mashandi, nicely tucked in this group, we're going to see if it's going to be Madonna Degan-Mashandi who is going to push the pace on here, or are we going to see them rolling around? Lam Kong up there really squeezing as well. Interesting to see Gonzalez Ruhr in that sprint skin suit in the green. Not going to be long till the green sprint skin suit is joined by a polka dot skin suit as we go over the top of the climb. But this is now the run in. Now, Emma, if you're in this at the moment, you're coming into this part of the climb, it's about getting ready, isn't it? It's about taking some big intakes of breath and getting some oxygen in, because we've got this steep kicker, and it really, really is intimidating. You come around the left-hand turn here, and it's like looking at a wall.
It is, and it will indeed kick, but actually every one of the riders in this group more than capable now of staying together, I think, because of the nature of these climbs. They're short, they're sharp, they're steep. This is an elite group of female racers in this large group, and although there is a stretch on this group, I'm going to nail my colour. I'm going to be strong here. I don't think we are going to see anybody off the back of this group on this short climb.
Well, let's see what's going to happen as they go up over the climb, up over the top. The pressure is on, but we're not seeing red chevrons. We're not seeing yellow chevrons, and that would be our key indicator that the riders in this group are really fighting, that they are absolutely on the limit. Now they come in as people start to squeeze on. Are we going to see anybody having a bad day on climb number 1? Remember, of course, you can have a tough time on climb 1 and be absolutely flying on climb 4, or vice versa. So really interesting watching these riders. No major gaps. The rider who was distanced earlier on, it was 16 seconds back to our rider
Zimmerman.
back. Zimmerman has been distanced, so Joanna Zimmerman is now at 22 seconds, but she's got a big gap to the riders behind, so she could well hold that position all the way in, but it's going to be about being smart. Now, just seeing one rider just drifting back here, just easing off. One thing people don't want to do, Emma, is squeeze too hard here and shoot off the front.
No, they need to stay in the group, and it is about managing your effort to stay with the group here. And now this is going to be really interesting, because this was the longest climb of the entire race today at 3.9 kilometers. You know, they will then transition over a very long downhill, run through a flat section. Then the longest climb to come is the final climb at 1.6 kilometers. So very, very short climbs, short, steep climbs, punchy climbs. And for me, you know, we could see this climb here, just this little kick here as they come up and through, now being over. But we could see this group going in and maybe even a sprint finish.
It wouldn't surprise me, but I think there could be a little bit of attrition on these steep climbs if somebody can open a gap. You can force a gap. You've got to remember, by forcing a gap on these last 3 climbs, it's not a long effort, which means you can go very, very deep, and then it's about who can go deepest. Okay, let's take a look at the screens. We saw Madonna Degmashandi accelerate off at the front, going up over the top with Martina Ereheka behind. Ereheka on the wheels, and they opened a slight gap. It was only about a second or so on the rest as they went over the top. These are the times to go up the climb itself. So Degmashandi leading over the top. She should take away the polka dot skin suit, which means she'll be in the white with red dots. There we go. Anyone would think I knew what I was talking about every now and then. Well, there we are.
Shall we just confirm the 11 riders in this leading group? Good. So Manchandi is in here, Hervek, Engstrom, Fua, Columbi, Kong, Embring, Gonzalez, Rua, Hermansen, Kasani, and Lundin are the 11 riders in this leading group.
So selection 1 made on the run into the climb, not losing anybody on the climb, but very interesting to see who is now here. Now, one rider who jumped on board is going to be Alze. That is our category 2 rider. So the dark green jersey just rolling to the front with the black shorts is a category 2 rider. The green skin suit, of course, being worn by our sprint leader in there. That is Gonzalez Arroyo. And we've got Degmashandi in the polka dot. The rest all clad in yellow as category 1 riders who have not yet taken a lead in the competition. So as we roll through this section, we're about to come in. We've done one little drop. We're coming into our second drop down, the indicator being we're coming up to those fantastic Gothic spires of the church on to our right hand side. We're going to take this left hand turn. So here we go, coming around the turn, and then we're going to start dropping in. It's only a slight drop, but then it levels again. It's not enough, I think, to break up the group because you can't sprint over. And I think for me, that's the one thing about the Cortakia. Whilst it's long, it's not easy to sprint over the top. Whereas if you are in the climbs over the Valkenberg, the Eichenberg Hill and the Eichenberg climb, you can sprint those climbs and sprint over the top and break a group and actually put in quite a few seconds. And keep clear because you're very quickly into a fast descent, particularly the last 2. So the further into this route, the faster the descents and the quicker they come after the climbing, which means that you can open gaps easier on the way through. So category 1, left hand side of your screen, rocketing their way down this upper slope at 44 kilometers an hour. The riders on the right hand side of your screen, well, they are on that big descent. Look at this, 60k PH I saw as they're going to come out. They're going to just drop down to come in to the lower slopes. It's going to be on to the windmill sprint. Wind turbines as well as the old traditional windmills out and around this section of the course, and both are utilising the wind power, keeping things rolling, just using the breeze. I wonder if our riders are going to generate enough draft to turn those blades of the windmill as they come past. They're certainly moving quick.
Well, taking a look here, I think there's around 9 riders in this leading group in the category 2 race. Kokkonen is here, McAlpine, Tritton, Holweiler, Hadlock, Gianti, Sanchez is here as well. So really interesting to see. These are the names we would have expected to be up here, I think, in category 2.
There's certainly nobody who I'm surprised by their presence.
That's a very cagey statement. Well, these riders are not being cagey about their
Cagey?
performance today. They
Me.
are continuing to push on. They're at 15.3 kilometres now into this 35-kilometre course. The next climb coming at 18.3, and then they come thick and fast before they head towards that flat 6 kilometres to the finish.
35k route total. Riders in category 2 heading into that half race distance marker. Meanwhile, category 1 a little bit further back, 12.8k under the wheels for our riders. Nice revs there, 91 pedal cadence at the moment for Cornelia Engstrom, tucked into this group as they roll their way along here on the upper plateau. They've got that big downhill to come, and it is possible to get caught out going over the top. It's very easy to be dropped down. Now, just taking a look at the Thistle Hover Moreland sprint. That is our sprint that's coming up. We already have through Myra Madeira, who has gone for it again. She's using this as a real good sprint workout, actually, because we can see she went through with an average watts per kilo at 4.1 watts per kilo, so that's power to weight, and an average wattage of 233 watts. Now, behind, there was a lot of people already pushing to go through that sprint, but it was Giannatti who came through with the second fastest time, but there's next to nothing to split Giannatti, Hadlock, Mabin and McAlpine. Kekkonen still within a second and a half, and to be honest, that's not really surprising. What is almost surprising is the fact that we have not got category 3 in that mix, and I think that analysis that you put in earlier saying it's super competitive is resulting in the riders not wasting any energy, just stretching their legs on those sprints. They are being so careful, so tactical in their deployment of their resources.
Well, and I think Myra Madeira came out very clearly from the word go and said, I want the sprint points this week. I want to be overall sprint winner out of all of the 4 categories, and that's what she's achieved to date. Now, you cannot make the assumption that the overall winner of these competitions comes from category 1, and Madeira has proved that today. You know, if this is what you want to do, if that is the target of your ride, then it is more than achievable. So Myra Madeira in this leading group in category 4, she's the rider who decided she was going to sprint today for those 2 sprint efforts and the sprint points, so she's been exceptionally successful. It also paid off for her because the other categories chose not to put the effort in through those sprint segments. They continued their ride, they continued the pace that they were riding at, and Madeira, well, she's benefited from it.
And she's right in that leading group as well. Now, this is category 1. They've come over the edge of the plateau. They've gone down. It doesn't look like anybody was caught
Look at the recovery.
Yeah, you can just see now these riders. The heart rates are dropping. It's not that long ago that Engstrom was in the 160 marker. She's dropping down to 145. That heart rate going down here, this left and right hand chicane on the way down, taken at nearly 60 kilometers an hour. And if you're a bigger rider, this is one of the times when you could potentially put riders in trouble by going over the top and kicking down hard. But it's probably going to be more likely that if you are with this group, you're going to do that as you go over the top of the shorter climbs, because you've probably got into less trouble on the way up them, because that is what tends to happen. The lighter climber can go easier on the way up. So here on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club, we are on our way down. We're at 15k of our 35-kilometer race. And one of the key things in this race, Emma, for me, really interesting when you sort of look at the numbers. And I know me and numbers don't necessarily agree. However, when I was working this out, of the actual categorized climbs, which basically every piece of ascent here in the women's race is categorized, there's 8.5k of climbing in total, which is next to nothing across what is a 35-kilometer route. And yet, if you can't climb, you're not going to be going as well here as you'd maybe expect when we talk about there being 26.5 kilometers of flat. You know, that's very different, isn't it? Because we normally would say, oh, a climber's course is one where most of it is climbing, but that's not always the case.
Well, and also the climb profile is different. Take a look at the course map we've got in front of us. You know, we said that first 6 kilometer was flat, and then we hit the climbs. They are relatively short, they are relatively sharp, and they will split the field. They're a very different type of climbing, and because of the nature of this, well, the distance of these climbs, the riders will attack at a much higher pace than they would normally if we finish with the Jebel Hafit, for example. So we will see a very different profile of climbing. We'll also see a much smaller pack go into each of these climbs. It's not like we've got 16 kilometers before we hit the climb.
Yeah, and that first climb is 3.9k long. So that's a very similar distance to the climb at the end of the Paso Alto on the women's race route. So it's virtually the same. It's almost the same average grade. I think it's 3.3 for the Paso Alto final climb, which takes you up the final climb. But because this is steeper and
it's a very different profile.
Down, that profile, it's not just the sort of gradient you can roll up and just power your way up by being a ruler, being a strong rider. You've got to be able to climb because of the gradient, because of those steep kicks.
Yeah. When we see a long climb towards the end of a course, what we often see is a time trial specialist go away. We often see someone who can hold a consistent pace for a long period of time. And the attack isn't a short, sharp attack. The attack is a push and then a hold at a pace that is comfortable for that rider to maintain for 20-25 minutes, because that's their attack distance. Here, the attack distance is 30 seconds. It's a very, very different style of racing.
It is very, very different style of racing, and it's going to be very interesting to see who can hold on, who can keep that pace just right. 4 races. Now, the further down the race route we go, the very different rider groupings seem to be appearing. Category 4, we've got Myra Madeira. In Category 3, we're with Claudia Gentili, but 2 riders there, our polka dot wearer and our green skin suit wearer, showing that the rider today who wins is going to be a rider who can do a bit of everything. In Category 2, you can see we've got Novelin Kokkonen, the rider that we're riding in with at the moment. And they're only about 800 meters or so off the back of Category 3. So Category 2 are moving very well indeed. Category 1, 16.9k cover, so they've still got a couple of k to go to reach the leaders in Category 2, and it's a big pack in Category 2, an even bigger pack in Category 1. Not as big as we'd be talking about big packs maybe if we were in somewhere like Australia, but this is still a big group.
Well, for me, and what's really interesting in Category 2 is that they are on that Valkenburg climb, and they are about 700-800 meters into it. Category 3 are up and over and onto the top of it, the difference being Category 3, there was an obvious attack on there and 2 riders gone clear, Idzik and Gentili. Category 2, well, I'm taking a look at this. They're on this climb at the moment, and the watts per kilo are not much stronger than when they're rolling on the flat. So it's almost as though this Category 2 group have chosen not to push on an attack on this climb.
Yeah. Absolutely, 100%.
Really interesting racing from Category 2 today.
But for me, when you look at this course profile, Category 1 is about making the first category climb of 4 climbs is about making selection. Then you've got this one in the middle, and the Valkenburg is surrounded by flat either side. So you've got about 2.5-3k of flat each side of this climb, and that plays to the group. So if you do distance the group on your own, it's not really going to help. If you can distance the rider off the back, maybe that will help, but there's no guarantees that's going to work. Whereas when you get to the last 2 climbs, you've got 2 in very quick succession. That means you can really get riders distance. If you split them on the hill, climb 3, that means when you drop down and go into the climb of the Eichenberg, you can then really, really hammer that advantage home and put a big enough gap in then to get to the finish. But that is, for me, the only way you're going to break this group here on the way through. I think if you are capable of splitting it on the Valkenburg and holding it to the end, we need to get you signed up on the UAE ADQ team, because, my goodness, that is some performance.
Well, some performance from these riders today on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club, but we're seeing very different performances across all 4 race categories. Category 2, the race we are currently watching, this group have come up the Valkenburg. They are still a group as they go over the reservoir at the top. Mabin is in here, Tridden, McAlpine, Gianti is there, Hadlock is still in the mix as we switch back into the Category 1 group. Category 2 at the top, Category 1 just rolling into the bottom of the Valkenburg. Now, this is still a large group as well, 11 riders at last count, as we see a little bit of a stretch now on this group. It's not a big push off the front, but the group are stretching themselves on the road, and Engström pushing at around 7 watts per kilo at the moment. Is Hermansen on the front, Manshandi in 2, Engström in 3, Erovec in 4, Kasani in 5, Kong is in there as well, and this is a bit of a stronger push on this climb than we've seen from this group recently. So Selena Columbi is in here as well as Catherine Fuhr. These are all the names we pretty much expected in this Category 1 race. As we were discussing the start list at the beginning of the show, they have not disappointed us so far. They are continuing to mop up the back of the Category 4 race field. That's the red jersey you can see at the moment. As they go past halfway up this climb, the group's still all together. Now, I am not expecting this climb to split this Category 1 group, Matt. I think this is going to be very similar to that Category 2 race, and it's going to be those last 2 Eichenberg climbs that play out this race.
That's how the course profile rolls, pretty much. To go now, you've got to be feeling really good. If you're feeling good, though, it is the opportunity to put people in trouble. Maybe shed out somebody who's a little bit not feeling it. Because remember, if you're feeling good, you might be feeling good now. You might be not feeling as good later on. You might catch somebody who's having a bad patch. One of the key things here for me is that we're about 35 minutes into the ride. So it depends on people's warm-up and how they roll, but quite often, when you're into that sort of 30-35 minute marker, people have in their head, oh, I need to take a drink up every half an hour, or I need to make sure I've started fueling up half an hour into the ride. That's when I know that if I take it on board, then I'm going to have some at the critical point when I get further through. That's, for me, that's the time where maybe 1 or 2 riders are not going to be having a good patch. And if they've gone hard at the start over the Cortakia, then potentially they're now relaxing down. You could catch somebody napping and really then make them work hard, even if they're feeling good. That could be reversed. You can't guarantee because you're feeling good here. You're going to be feeling good on the Eichenberg. And therefore, you've got to race to your strengths. And if you're feeling strong now is the time to really push.
Well, pushing at the moment is Madeira on the front of that Category 4 race. Pushing now is the front of this Category 1 race because they are coming up towards the polka dot banner, signifying the end of the Valkenburg climb. Now, the Valkenburg was last used in the Tour of Flanders in 1996. It's not been used for a really long time as they head up and over the reservoir at the top.
Now, 1996, we were talking about this. If you were watching the men's race when we were in Belgium last week, 1996 men's Tour of Flanders, an absolute classic and really interesting to watch how it played out. And group tactics play a part. Now, interesting, Madonna Degen-Mershandi going over the top of the Valkenburg, up at the top. She kicked on over the top of the Cortakia. She's kicked on over the top of the Valkenburg. Who's in second place? Heck again. Both of them kicking over the top here. I'm going to be really interested to see if both those riders are in the same team next week when we come into our finals, because I think there's they're either arch rivals or they are teammates who are working to take this apart. Now, on to our duo of climbs, the Eichenberg Hill and the Eichenberg Climb. This is the Eichenberg Hill. It's a slightly more rounded profile at the top. It is a slightly smoother roll over the top. I say a roll because it's still an effort. At the moment, 29 seconds from Myra Madeira to Bridget Bremner. And Bremner has got company coming up behind her because she's going to get Gil and Galliano. Now, that is dangerous here for Madeira in the sense that if the 3 riders get together, because we've got this 6K run in from the top of the Eichenberg climb to the finish, it's going to test these riders for certain.
Well, it is indeed, and Madeira is going to have to put in a massive time trialling effort to stay clear of 3 chasing riders. Now, the best thing that can happen to Bremner is that Gil and Galliano all go over the top of the final Eichenberg climb together, and then the 3 of them work together to bring Madeira back, because the effort Madeira is going to have to put in on that final section to stay clear is going to be much bigger than the effort Bremner, Gil and Galliano put together if if, and it's a big if, they work together.
Well, let's see. So Madeira coming up to the top of the Eichenberg Hill in Category 4 on the right-hand side of your screen. Left-hand side of your screen, no need to see if there's going to be a time trial effort or a chase back, because the Category 3 are still one big bunch at the front of this group. They're coming into the start. They're going to go underneath that UCI banner. Remember, of course, MyWhoosh, the partner of the UCI, the world governing body for cycle sport, for esports, running right through to 2026, and really looking forward to see how we roll out with all the different things that could make it that up. We are as in the dark as you are. We could do some of those lights on at the side of the boardwalk, and do you know what? If we knew, we wouldn't be able to tell you anyway. So as we make our way up the boardwalk, we're heading on to the climb. This is going to take us up over the lake and on to the climb proper. It's a very steady gradient coming up at the moment, and as these riders make the way up here, you can just see one rider just a little bit further back now got a squeeze on the way up here. Very tough stuff here on the Eichenberg Category 1. Well, they've gone over the top of the Valkenberg. And just a quick dive back, 1996 in the men's race. I did say I was going to go jump on the bike and watch it. I did. It is a classic. I actually watched it whilst riding on MyWhoosh. I watched the program with great Phil Liggett, an inspiration for me.
Well, 12 riders still in that leading group in the Category 3 race as they continue to push on our penultimate climb. On the left-hand side of the screen, 400 metres behind them is the leaders in the Category 2 race. Now, this is going to get interesting, because unless those Category 3 riders push on, the catch is going to be made from the Category 2 group behind. So McAlpine, Mabin, Sanchez, Alzat in this race, Gianti here, Kokkonen here, these riders pushing on here now up and over the border at the gradient around 5% at the bottom of this climb. That Category 3 group are not far up the road, but going up the road at the moment is Angel Hadlock. Hadlock, one of the very active riders in this Category 2 race field. She had a win on the Hebelhav feet in qualifier race number 1. She had a win in the outer loop in qualifier number 2. She didn't win last week on the Paso Alto. She was 4th. So really strong riding from Hadlock this month. But the others, well, she is a marked rider today.
She's a marked rider, but we keep on seeing these push, these digs. I think she's very aware. If that Category 3 group come up, sorry, Category 3 group and the Category 2 group come together, it's going to be carnage. It could potentially put a massive group of maybe 15, 20 riders, massive by this style of course and this style of riding, big group together. That could cause problems, because when we're on the flat, the difference between Category 3 and 2 is minimised. You can find all of Category 2 on the front. Yep. All of Category 3 sat in the draft.
Yep.
That equals out the difference between the categories, and you've got a mass sprint, in which case you watching everybody, making sure you mark the right moves in your category is going to be really difficult. You've got to do this now. But for Category 2, they are chasing on. Hadlock, for me, if I was these riders, I would be absolutely giving it beans right now and shed these riders. But it may be that they're all on the limit.
Well, so what you're saying then, Matt, is this Category 2 race are about to catch Category 3 race. And what they want to do is do that before they go over the top of the final climb today.
100%.
Because otherwise, the Category 3 race will be able to sit in the draft and take a tow. And
it's highly likely that they're able to do that, depending on how it's ridden and how hard. But bear in mind, Category 3 have been, I don't want to use the phrase taking it easy, but they've been taking it easy. It's been really, they have, Category 3 have been much steady. We know that they can go much harder for all of the course, and they're doing it selectively. They're pushing now as they come up here. But I think this is in response. They've saved the energy for now. That means they've got energy for that chase to stay in there. They are coming over the top of the first time, and if they don't, if this is together at the base of the Eichenberg climb, and we've got 6K of it coming together, you've just made it much more difficult.
Well, and the other thing is, to attack off the front of this Category 3 race now, for me, that would be pointless. Because if the Category 2 race catch the Remainers and sweep up the rest of the chasing Category 3 riders, they're going to help them come back, aren't they?
They will, particularly if they catch them on the flat or the downhill. If they come through, if Category 2 were to come through before they get out the other side, they'll be okay. If they come through on the flat, if you catch those Category 3 riders on the downhill, they're just going to jump on board, and that could be really decisive. Really interesting to see how this plays out. Eichenberg Hill complete for Category 2.
Yeah, so we can take a look at this. Myra Madeira, Category 4. She's about to start the Eichenberg climb. Category 3 are on the descent of the Eichenberg hill, heading towards the Eichenberg climb. Category 2, they're going over the top of the Eichenberg hill and about to start the descent. And Category 1, they are at the bottom of the Eichenberg climb. So all 4 race categories starting to come together on the 2 final climbs of the day. This is getting really interesting now. Less than 4 kilometers separating the front of the race with the front of the Category 1 race field, and spread across the road, well, those are the other 2 categories in between.
So a real battle unfolding in what is less than 10% of the course here. Now, those distances between them are coming down. You can see the difference in speed here. We're on a very similar gradient here. Category 4 leader traveling at 13-14 kilometers an hour. Category 1 leaders on an almost identical gradient, covering the ground at over 20 kilometers an hour. So the speed differential is there. Category 1 are starting to pressure, and you can tell that because as the riders just move to stay in the group, so not get distanced off the back, they're having to push into the red. The jostling for position and that positioning, that jockeying of movement to get into place is enough. Now, big push on the front here. We're just seeing Catherine Furr, I think, winding this up near the front of the group. Is it Furr who's opening up the throttles, or is she responding? She's responding, I suspect, here, because this group are having to answer a move on the very front, and it looks like we are seeing another big push up here. Celine Colombi, a known climber. Celine Colombi on the attack, but it's been answered this time, and I don't think we've lost anybody here. So no riders distanced off the back of this group. Lots of yellow and red chevrons coming up. They're about to come over the top. Sprinting over the top here could put somebody in real trouble, particularly then as you go into the climb, because they're going to be in a minority, because I think the majority here are going to come over together. That's going to leave us the Eichenberg climb. So quickly over the top here and into that climb, we're going to go with Category 1 leaders out on the road. The last leading group on the road, working their way in towards the last 10K of this race.
Take a look at that. That is the Category 3 race with some of the Category 4 riders in it, and behind them, that is the Category 2 leaders heading on to the back of their wheels.
Oops.
This is going to get interesting because this is also the final climb. So this is the Eichenberg climb. It's 1.6 kilometers, 4.7% average gradient, so it's going to be steep. This is going to be about who can dig in. I think this Category 3 race field are going to have to view the top of this climb as the finish line.
Yeah, this is walked straight in. If I was an evil Bond villain, I'd be going, they've walked into my trap, Mr. Bond. Because guess what? What's going to happen? Category 2 are going to catch them. They're going to catch them on the ascent. Anybody who hangs in here is going to stay with Category 4 all the way out the other side. They're all going to be together. Category 2 are going to sweep through. Here they come, and it's all going to explode. If you were wanting to take a win here, jump in. If you're a Category 3 rider, get ready. Now's the time. Jump with Category 2. Watch your opposition be distanced and go with them. You've got to have something there because you've been taking it easy, time to squeeze, and then hope it goes hard enough to shed riders because the big bulk are going over the top.
Well, this is for our eyes only, and this is absolutely going now because the green jerseys come through up and over the blue. Matt's almost on the floor in the studio. He introduced Bond to start with. He has to take the puns that come with it, but it is indeed the Category 2 riders coming to the fore now, and that is what we would expect on this climb. The gradient is 6.2% under their wheels at the moment, as the Category 3 riders hang on to the back of that group as long as possible. On the left-hand side of your screen, well, our Category 1 leaders, they are flying at 74 kilometers an hour down the hill, the Eichenberg Hill, that will bring them into the base of the Eichenberg climb. They are 1.2 kilometers behind the riders on the right-hand side of your screen.
So this is Category 1. They're making the way down. Are we going to see an explosion? Are we going to see a move? We are seeing a move. I'll tell you what, we're seeing a move before he even hits it. People carrying pace through, using the momentum on the way down, using the roll through, using that free speed. Hermansen going down there. I'm seeing 6 and 7 watts per kilo coming out of some of these riders now as we roll underneath the UCI banner here on MyWhoosh into the final climb here in Belgium. The Eichenberg climb, 1.6 kilometers of pain coming up for the riders, 4.7% average gradient. They've got to get over the top with this group, get distance here, and you are in trouble, because I think the majority will make it. The minority are going to be fighting, and it's all about catching riders out. Kasani at the moment in the danger zone. There's a gap there. If Kasani can't squeeze now, she's going to be in trouble, and Ursula Kasani has got to get on those wheels. That group are starting to pull away. They're starting to distance Kasani. There's plenty of climb left, but if they keep pressurizing, once that gap goes, you are in trouble. And I think Kasani is going to be the first of the victims of the Eichenberg climb.
She is indeed. So Kasani now off the back of this group as the rest of the group continue to push on. Columbia is here, Hermansen, Kong, Ervek, Engstrom, all in this group, continuing to push and continuing to push up this climb. Now, 5% at the moment. They are continuing to work up the climb. They are moving strongly. Is anybody going to go off the front? A little bit of a dig coming in there from Columbia, but nothing that is going to stick, I don't think.
29k is where the summit is, 1,000 meters. But Columbia, I think, has got the power to go up there. If she sits at 5.5, 6 watts per kilo, she could ride to the top. At that pace, she's digging in deep, and this is doing damage. We're starting to see that group having to respond here. They're being forced to answer Columbia. Columbia is a known name when we go on the climb. She's a known rider. She's a known threat. One rider goes down the road, should be possible to bring them back. One rider goes down the road and 4 or 5 get across, and you're not in that 4 or 5, you are in trouble, and that's why everybody's scrambling. But that's also why, if they don't come across, you want to go back in and you want to kick again. You can't keep pressuring. You've got to go back and re-kick.
Well, I'll tell you something, our Category 2 and Category 3 riders going over the top of the climb at the moment, thick and fast. 9 riders in that Category 2 race, but the Category 3 riders are strongly on their heels. It was not a particularly long climb to put a huge distance in, so they are all now in the run for the finish, as our Category 1 riders are the last riders on this climb today.
And 1 or 2 riders at the back are just in trouble here. But for me, this is where Columbia needs to do a rethink. She needs to come back. She needs to then kick again and try and take people with her. If she sits on the front, that group are just going to leave her out there to dry. They are not going to particularly chase her down with any urgency, because even if 1 or 2 go across, it's not enough. There's still more riders behind in the group. This is about numbers. It's about strength in depth. You need 4 or 5 in front. You get 4 or 5 in front, then you're going to have problems behind. And it's not splitting enough yet over the top. We are now running in towards top. It's about 400 meters to the summit of the climb, and Fua is on her way across. Fua on the left-hand side of his screen, making her way across as we see Madera make her way down into towards the finish. She's about 4k, now 3k to go to the finish. Left-hand side of your screen, we're coming up to the top of the climb. We're now seeing fractures. We've now seen at least 2 riders leave the main group of Category 1 leaders and be distanced off the back. Will they stay distanced? Will we see a group of 4 or 5 go over the top? They've got to keep pushing now. and open the gap, because we go straight into the descent, and you can see the profile in the top right hand side. It's steep, it's a fast descent, and it comes quick over the top. Here we go.
Well, this is about technique now on the descent, and about how fast you can get that momentum rolling and how fast you can get the speed up, because Fua, Columbi, Engstrom and Manshandi have got around a 2-second gap. And can they hold this, or are the group going to come back together again? I think if the riders behind can get that pace up and get the pace up high, they can bring this back. But the attack is on from the front. Engstrom has now come off the pace, but Hermansen and Embring at the back. This is the danger zone right now.
And now is the time to ride. You've got 6k of flat when you've gone off the other side. You basically, if you kick now, if these four work together, think of it as a team time trial. They go now, you can recover. If it doesn't work, you've time to recover before the finish. But by going now, you're going to make people behind at work. Engstrom needs Fua, she needs Manshandi, she needs Columbi to work with her. At the moment, they've not got across, and the pack behind are coming. There are 3 riders who've not made this. I saw 3 riders come off the back. I think that we're going to see 3 riders who have not made this group, and this group will have come down. At the moment, there is a gap between, and they are in all sorts of trouble behind. They are scrambling for wheels. Embring leading the chase at the moment. Lamkong's in there. Erehek in that chasing group. The leading 4 riders, they've got to work now. Now's the time. Don't muck about here, guys. You've got to go for this. You've put it in. Now make it stick. Use this effort. You've got a gap. The gap's there. Make everybody work. You get an echelon. You're riding in Belgium. You're riding on a classic. You get an echelon in a race. You use it. You don't get gifted an advantage by you being smart, going over the top. You get yourself that gap. You've got to use it. Use it now.
Well, the 4 riders pushing on at the front. There's a 5-second gap at the moment to the chasers. Is it going to stay? Well, we don't know, but it was Columbi who set the fastest time up that climb, followed by Fur, then Manshandi, then Engstrom, Erevek coming in 5th place, Embring, Kong, Hermansen, Lunding, Gonzalez, Rua, Kasani, then Sanchez, Hadlock, McAlpine, Garcia from Category 2. It is all to play for in all 4 of our categories now, as they are on the downhill and flat run into the finish. The leaders in all of these races now running for that checkered flag.
And we've got about 8 seconds here in Category 1. Now 9 seconds separating our leading 4 from the riders behind. They put that attack in over the top. They squeezed hard enough. Great riding there. Instigated by Columbia's initial attack. It has paid off. They've got the gap. That's Category 1, left-hand side of your screen. Category 2 are on the right, and this is a bigger group here, Emma.
Well, and there's a couple of Category 3 riders in here as well who have stuck in this Category 2 group, and we said that was the strategy Category 3 leaders needed to use, but McAlpine, Kukkonen, Garcia, Mabin, Tridden, all in this Category 2 group. It's a big group, actually, and it's full of really strong riders, more than the top 5 in there. 2 riders, Idzik is in there, so is Arias. Those are the 2 Category 3 riders. Really interesting to see. Our Category 4 lone leader now with 1 minute 30 on the 3 chasers, Myra Madeira. Well, she's now got 900 meters to go.
It looks like here in Belgium we are not going to see the catch. Myra Madeira is going to come in solo in the lead. I'll tell you something, she's worked really hard this month. She's really been putting the pressure on. It's going to pay off, I think, here today. She's our leader in Category 4 on the right-hand side of your screens. The rider furthest down the race route, having covered 34.5 kilometers. The leaders in Category 1 are approaching the 32-kilometer mark, which will leave them 3K to go. Group of 4 riders, and they went over the top. That gap that was 7 seconds, it's now 15.
Well, Madeira now leading this race out. She was part and parcel of the Category 4 race. It was the first race to start. It started 15 minutes before our Category 1 race, and Madeira has been the leader on the road now for some time, and it is looking like Madeira is going to come across the line first. She's going to win, I think, the Category 4 race. She's going to be the first rider over the line. She's got 300 meters left, 200 meters left of this race today in Belgium.
So our riders are making the way in towards the finish here in Belgium, all part of the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. It's qualifier race number 4, the final one, and it is going to be a win here today. Myra Madeira solos to a race victory on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club, our final qualifier. It's finals next week. Will she take the win there? Great ride by Myra Madeira.
Well, she's coming into form at the right time because those finals are next week. This is the chase for 2nd, 3rd and 4th in the Category 4 race. Bremner, Gill and Gallego all in this group. Who is going to take the win here, as we can just take a little look back? Around 600 meters behind them, that is the leaders in the Category 2 race and the Category 3 race. So this now all coming together in the last kilometre of racing.
So right hand side of your screen, Bridget Bremner in that polka dot skin suit with Galliano, with Gill, and at the moment it's Galliano who opened up with the yellow helmet. With the white helmet going through though is Gill. Gill has the lead. Now Galliano goes again on her left shoulder. We are still at 200 meters to go, but the finish line comes quick round this right hand turn. You can just see the riders really winding this up. The banner comes into sight. Galliano at 6 watts per kilo, 6.5, nearly 7, now hit 7. Great timing as Galliano takes the 2nd place. Gill's going to come through for 3rd. It's going to be a 4th place for Bridget Bremner. A great result by the 4 riders who broke clear on the way through, with Madeira taking the win there in Category 4. This is the Category 2 and the Category 3 leaders.
Yeah.
Category 3 have done what I said. Oh,
they have indeed, and they've got 500 metres to go for this run into the line, and that is going to be one big sprint for the Category 2 and the Category 3 win, and it is winding up early, you know. 400 metres to go as Janati is pushing, Mabin kicking at 7, Sanchez is there as well. So is Idzik, because Idzik wants to win in that Category 3 race, but the Category 2 race goes up and over the top because Gianti's kicking at 7 watts per kilo. Hadlock is in there as well as they sweep round this right hand bend. They're going to see the finish line, and it's going to be Garcia who leads them out. Janati comes through again, so Hannah Janati absolutely pushing on, but Garcia, I think, ran her close to the line.
What
wow.
a run in there in our Category 2. I think Giannetti from Garcia. Indeed, it's confirmed top left-hand side of our screen. Giannetti from Garcia, from Sanchez, from Mavid, from Hadlock as they came in over the line there. I think Emma's going to try and frantically scroll for a Category 3 winner down there. I'll keep my eyes on Category 1. Good job with the 2 of us in the studio right now. It's so busy.
It looks like Idzik got that from Arias in Category 3.
Great racing across Categories 2, 3 and 4, and now the fastest riders on the race route coming in. The select group of 4 have held their lead and indeed extended it as they've come down here in Belgium on the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. You can see that they are now coming into the last 500 meters. We have 4 riders here. Columbia on the front, winding it up to start off with. The climber starts to accelerate up quickly, going down the right hand side there, rolling through Engstrom. Looks like she wants this for a Fua, goes over the top of her, and Shandy at the moment in that polka dot skin suit is thinking about where she's going to kick. It's difficult to get the timing right now as you're rolling. This is, of course, these riders are still learning. Fua is on the front. She's got the kick. She's opened up the gap. Here she comes. It's going to be Catherine Fua. Welcome back, Catherine. She's back and she's on form. She takes the win in Category 1. So a fantastic win for Catherine Fua from Mandana Degamashandi. Celine Columbi in 3. Cornelia Ekstrom in 4. What a race. Now, this is the run for the places for 5th downwards, the last of those prize money places. Anna Embring with a massive kick, but look at Lamcon kicking over the top. Lamcon's going to get a top 5 here. Great to see that rider coming through. A great ride by her as she kicks through. We'll wait to get all of that confirmed. So at the moment, well, look at this. It's Embring who's got that that's by fractions of a second. So Furman, Shani, Columbia, Engstrom, Embring, Kong, Erehek, and Hermansen in Category 1. Great racing. I'm just say this out here, I love Belgium.
Well, it's great, isn't it? And fantastic to see Catherine Furback on top when life puts a mountain in your way. Climb it slowly and steadily and enjoy the view at the top. What a great final qualifier for October.
It is indeed. My name's Matt Payne. It's a pleasure putting words to the action on the MyWhoosh Sunday race. So please do get in touch. It's at Matt Fix Payne. And make sure you jump on MyWhoosh. Going to be out and riding that all the way through the coming week as well. My co-host here, my co-presenter, is, of course, the one and only Emma Martin. Emma, where can we find you on social media?
You can find me at Biking Emma. Please do get in touch.
So we can't wait to see what you've been getting up to. We can't wait for our finals. Please make sure you're ready to get those team names in. Let us know who you're riding with, where you're riding. But we're going to take a quick break. Make sure you rejoin us on Twitch TV, on YouTube for the men's race. That's going to be coming up very shortly. But from myself, from Emma, from all of the amazing team behind the scenes who make all of this work, we're going to say thank you very much for watching. Stay safe. We'll see you again soon.
Goodbye.